Welcome, class. We're going to continue on with our Project 2. A lot of nice treats today. We're going to work on collograph prints. Now, this is really important because it relatively, it was really part of a bigger period called Cubism art, which a lot of you are very familiar with. It was like 1910 and pretty much going into the war. Okay, Picasso made it very famous. Braque made it very famous. They call it the working men's art. And the collograph is kala, the Greek word for glue. Thus we have our trusty glue guns handy. And graph, of course, meaning join. Okay, so it was really, at that time it was really so against which is going on. We know Matisse and all those other wonderful painters that did those beautiful floral studies and nature drawings and stuff. This is really when abstraction started to hit, especially in Europe. I mean, it was really frowned upon in a lot of cases, but it was just really of the time. And again, Cubism, it was almost very much, they would take whole elements, like myself right now, I might be reduced to, a rectangle and a couple squares and, a couple flaps for my ears and that type of thing. So I think a lot of you are familiar with that. And also the big deal, which we'll be doing in this class too, is collaging. So it was very much of that time period. Remember, right before the World War I this is. So it was, a lot of things were happening in Europe. There was a lot of unsettledness. And then of course the war started in 1914, and some of the artists, Braque himself, I believe, had to enlist and fight for the French services. So it was a time of a lot of upheaval. So a lot of men, especially in that period, of course, they were the farmers and all that. They worked the land, and they were all called up to enlist in the city. A lot of them ran down to the south of France and regrouped, and women were starting. A lot of women also. There was some women artists, but they actually, because this movement had such an impact, they were actually really getting out their canvases and really working too. So it was an exciting period, but a very kind of devastating period also. I mean, the war was probably the worst war ever. But a lot of times movements, may start themselves just because, kind of give birth because of all the relevance and significance of what was going on in the period. Okay, good. So we're going to start today. I've got some goodies to show you right off the bat. We're going to, part of this collogram is called Poor Men's Etchings, and of course a lot of this was on blocks. So a lot of artists and stuff were using blocks, almost like a block printing type of thing. They were using all materials that were thrown out. They were using materials that they would have their trash in and all that. I mean, this wasn't even probably wasn't even invented at the time. But I made all these different blocks to show you. You can get these blocks almost anywhere. Again, so many times you can find things and clean them off and reuse them. This is actually padded. It's all cellophane. Aluminum foil. And because this extra padding makes me able to push this down wherever I want to and really come up with a kind of cool technique. The other one here, you can see, is all different kinds of string. So this one, again, I will be painting this over and then using it, on my paintings. The one right in front of you, if you can see this one, is made out of macaroni. As you can see, this is part of our dinner last night without the paint. And again, mounted on blocks. And it's a really cool technique, which then, just putting your paint on that ends up looking like this, okay? So you can get really great background techniques. I'm probably go back into that with another color. Also with some of the other techniques I kind of did ahead of time, but just wanted to show you. The one in the upper right is salt technique. Just by throwing salt on the painting, you could either use the larger crystals or the regular table salt. And a couple of these, actually right there, were from last week when we did kind of the reverse printing, okay? So this was incised, which really means cut in, and this one we're doing today is on the outside, okay? So, you know, it's almost reversed. So this is things added on, and of course what we did last week for the second part of the week was things that were taken out. That's why we were carving in, okay? So that's an important relationship that, you know, just in your head they're very similar, but one's in, one's out, okay? So today you can see I've already squirted this a little bit. I wanted just to get you, I'm just going to add a little watercolor on here. It's one of our dyes. Just throw that on a bit. I've already spritzed the background just so the paint, you know, on the watercolor paper will play with that a bit. I'm going to actually pour a little bit of this on there. So I want to get it pretty good and wet, because what I'm going to do now is, as I spoke earlier, I am going to actually toss some crystals in here, okay? So just make sure they're coming out. They really just add great techniques to the background. And this is what this is all about, all background techniques, okay? So again, leftover Christmas items. I've got my workspace here all ready to go. So I'm going to squirt some paint in here. And I'm going to come up with the, you know, paint this again. It's on a block, so it's easy to handle, because otherwise sometimes if you don't put on a block, you know, you're fidgeting. You remember last week I had a few errors, artistic errors, of course, and I was able to paint them, go back in and paint them, and, you know, kind of fix some of those errors I made. So again, I really want you to play with this. You know, I don't think there's any, well, I bought a few things, but hardly anything. Everything is right from the things I had in closets and all types of things. So definitely play with this. And also while I'm here, because I don't want to have you lose track of what we're doing. Now again, I'm pressing this down right now. I'll show you in a second. Just kind of very randomly, you know, I've got a little bit of extra water on here, you know, which is going to be great for the salt, but not necessarily for this one. So again, I'm just going to hit it up again with the paint, and then press it down, okay? Now, remember, class, because depending on what kind of paper you're using, I'm using regular watercolor paper, I'm going to go back and really push this down, okay? Because I really want to be sure. If you just lay it down, you can see what I just did. It doesn't come in as well. This really gets that paint to the paper, which I think you know, is really important for this exercise. You know, use another tool, get that down a bit. You can use the back of a spoon works really good, and then you start seeing this snowflake going on, which could be really wonderful. Again, these techniques would work well on fabric if you use fabric dyes. Now I'm going back again, because just like the snowflakes, sometimes they're the most beautiful when they're kind of fading away a bit, okay? So here I go again. I'm pushing this down, making sure all that ink hits the paper. Again, the back of a spoon works really well. Now, just because I want a little bit more color on this, I'm going to now, in my palette over here, remember, these are these palettes that I told you that you can buy them at the store, but Amazon has like 4 for $12 or something. You can use them for a lot of things, cutting boards. I love them because they wash off so easily. So here I go, putting a different color on that, and I'm actually going to go back close to this guy because I really like to get a kind of all over pattern, okay? So I'm pushing this down using my little handy tool there and just really press this down. Remember, if our paper isn't padded, if I was to use a really plush kind of paper, almost like fabric, it would definitely read differently. But you can see now it starts taking shape. You know, I've got, you've got to be careful of this. And of course, it's hard to show you while I'm doing this because the paint's wet and dry at the same time. But I'm going to continue on and do another one up here because I really like this purple color going on there. Again, just play with this. Well, you know, as you were doing with the vegetables last week, kind of same type of thing. You're playing with this, you're putting this down, pressing it, getting a lot. And also, I've got this other wonderful technique going on underneath this, which I would definitely, some of you have done this before with the salt, but it really makes it so it really kind of stands out. So you can see this starting to take shape, okay? Now, another wonderful thing about this is I want to kind of make it look like what it is. I mean, it's a beautiful snowflake design. It really looks like it's pressed against glass. I'm giving it another shot, actually, of both colors. Painting these up. And again, you could find these at any 5 and 10. Pressing this down again. The other thing you can do sometimes also, which is really cool, and you can try this on your own, I'll just tell you about it. You can take something like this and actually put it to cloth. And then as soon as you do it, you got to work fast though, as soon as you do it, then you can turn it around and use that print to go on the paper, because sometimes it just takes the paper better, okay? Now, again, I see where this, I'm going right back to where I was, kind of just reworking a bit so they're not all alike. As we know from our science classes, there's no two snowflakes alike. Yeah, and so again, if I was to change color, I could easily turn these into kind of pretty flowers also, okay? Now again, I'm going to let this, because doing a demonstration, I'm actually going to get a little bit more spray on this. I've got it taped down on all edges, so with this spray, it's definitely going to have an effect. Now this also would be a time, if you wanted to, I'm using water, but it would be a great time for you to use a little spray rubbing alcohol if you had that, because this would actually eat into the paint a little. So that could be a really cool thing for you to do and just, kind of experiment with. I'm going to go back to my brayer. I'm going to just rub this paint a little. And now, again, I did it by hand before. I don't need to have every area covered. Now I've got a really nice mixture. Okay? So, I am going to pretend I'm baking. I'm going to add a little bit more salt here. Be careful it doesn't get in your eyes or anywhere else, or any little beast is running around, so you have to be extra careful. And again, make this look like it's in repeat. Always, go out to the edges, pushing this really down. Remember, I do have this already painted, and actually, look how nice that is. Look how nice that is with the different paints going, okay? So, again, if you're just doing this and not having to put it up and down, this would really come out great. I just want you guys to just see you know, how you can play with these things. And again, nothing more than glue gun, and I'm going to just do one more just to play with this. I'm going to put a little bit more blue on here. And I love this kind of new color in here with it. You know, load it up a bit. You can make some a little bit more. Pressing it down. That's the key, class, especially when you are using really flat paper and stuff. I'm going to really press this down, okay? So, and I'm going to just do it here again. I got a little extra paint on there. And make this really an all over. You can make this as minimalist as you like, or kind of go for the maxi, which I always like to do. And I also like that it's you know, the more you paint on there a bit, the more it kind of evolves into a whole different element. Again, just squirting a little bit of that paint right on my little block here. This will really give it a punch of color. Again, I'm going to go back over one of these here, press that down. I'll probably suggest using gloves for this, but everything I use is water soluble. Yeah, oh, I love it. Okay. There. So this really is going to have a really nice effect. And now I'm going to let this dry, okay? So you can see how nice that's looking. Again, it's very played with. I did a lot of really fun, 2 different techniques in here. The salt really makes a difference. And of course, when you're all finished, because you got to salt it again, because of the new dyes, the salt dries away and you've got these different, you've got a whole different kind of technique, okay? Okay, good. So let's down the hatch with this one. Now remember, I work fast anyways, but I think it's a really good thing to keep this going at a good pace, because you have really much, you don't want your paints to dry out. Oh, my iced tea. Now let's start one other one. Let's try one of these other guys that we have here. This is a fun one. I think, again, I'm actually going to do 2 things on this one. I am going to play with this. I mean, it's just asking to be played with. So, in this case, remember, this is all aluminum foil. Every time I touch it, it's going to indent in a different shape, okay? So, these really provide, some of you, of course, have done this with Kleenex techniques, wax paper, that type of thing. So I'm actually just going to flip this. I could flip this on its side. Oops. But I have to work fast again. And now I'm just pressing this down, okay? You can hear the scrunching. You can kind of feel that it's just getting this kind of dripping. I'm going to do it again here. Again, I'm trying to get a couple techniques out of this. And of course now, I'm going to throw this one out here a bit. I'm going to get you one more thing for this. Now this also, we're going to do both these techniques this week. I encourage you for this, the next technique this Wednesday is different fabric, okay? You can use burlap, you can use a lot of your fabric samples, you can use gauze. Gauze really works really nice. You open it up, you know, you can kind of get whatever shapes you want. I'm just going to put this down, pretend you're basting a chicken or something. Or you just cut your finger and you need a nurse or a doctor. So I'm putting these down now, because I've already got this wonderful thing going on underneath. Now, to work with that a bit, Let me see. I am just going to pick a color that could work nicely with that red. I'm actually going to do another red, okay? So remember, just with any of these techniques, kind of work fast. You can see where I definitely want to get all this on here. I'm going to go back into here. I'm going to push all these things away. I'm going to get another brayer in there. This is a really kind of crimson-y color. And again, I'm going to actually use my other brayer here to get this all on here. And I am going to probably throw a little dash, which I also do, okay? So now I'm going to just get this on top of here, okay? Be very careful with the paints. Just brayer this over, and it's automatically, I can tell you, I can see it already, it's automatically getting this really kind of cool technique. Now also, in a case like this, I am going to spray it, because even though I'm working fast, it's nice to get that extra kind of color in there. So of course, we all love our pinks. You can't go wrong. I'm actually pushing this away. I'm getting another area to play with. I'm doing this kind of mixture of red and pink here now. Again, we all sometimes tend to go to our same colors, but on these kind of projects, since we're doing quite a few of them, make them in different color tones. You can really have a lot of fun when you mix different colors and stuff. And now remember, if I keep this on longer, a lot more is going to happen. So this one, just showing you how to kind of get it started. Now be careful, class, because inevitably the gauze tries to lift up, and that's one of the reasons I keep squirting it down a bit, okay? So again, let this dry, and you're going to have a really cool piece when this is done. I'm not going to actually, I'm just going to lift it up a bit, because what happens is then I don't want anything to fall off. But if anything falls off, just put it right back on there again, and then go ahead with the other ones. So I'm giving you a nice range to do, and of course this one will be a lot of fun. I would highly suggest it. It has really good results. Now remember also, if you like to on some of these, you can reverse it, put the paper on top of it. Actually, let me just show you that. Put the paper on top of this. I'm going to actually use the same colors I've been using, and I'm just going to put all my paint in here, okay? I'm giving it like a underbelly coat here. Putting, you know, I've got a little bit of that light lavender going on in there, and now I've got a wonderful, my crimson red on there. So I am going to try this both ways. Get a little bit of that on there. So I'm actually going to push the paper on this. Again, if you like to, spraying just, you know, it has the ability to just kind of have the paint attract a little bit more, and then really press this down, okay? I mean, really get this so it's, you know, you're really working. I'm actually going to use an architectural angle to really push this down, okay? Because what we're trying to do is we're trying to squeeze every bit of paint out of this crevice, okay? Now, sometimes, again, some of the rag papers and maybe some of the, now look, it really starts, you know, kind of coming together there. So, again, let's try it the other way, just for argument's sake. Actually, what I'm going to do is go right over this. And then this way I'll get my full weight, which isn't that much, but it's enough to change things. I'm going to hit this again with my colors because they all kind of work together. And remember I made it a little bit wet, so I'm going to just push this right down in here, okay? You can really push it around, you know, pound it down a bit. Remember, this is all just glue gun and strings that we got from the bakery. So everything that we were throwing out, I put in a big box. And, oh yeah. So you can imagine, if I was to turn this into either fabric or wallpaper, I could color in the background parts there. I could definitely just leave it be. Depending on what other colors I used, I could continue the whole thing, which I probably will do. So just play with this, and also play with more is less. You know, try to get two I say servings, try to get 2 plates out of this, okay? Yeah, again, this is very much like this guy. You got to keep pushing that down, okay? So again, really enjoy yourselves on these projects. Make up some of your own techniques also, but I go with what we're using just so we're all kind of using the same elements, okay? Okay, enjoy, and I'll see you in class.